So my name is Maureen Weiss. I'm a professor in the School of Kinesiology, and I focus on the psychological and social aspects of sport and physical activity for children and adolescents. So I would describe the focus of my program as looking at sport and physical activity as contexts for promoting youth development, such as self-esteem, social relationships like with parents, coaches, and peers, motivation and character development. And youth development also entails the learning of life skills or skills that are learned in one domain like sport that can possibly be generalized or transferred to other domains like school, home, neighborhood, and other peer contexts. And these skills can include things like self-regulation skills, interpersonal skills, emotion management skills, goal-setting skills, among others. So in my teaching, I like to emphasize that positive psychological and behavioral outcomes are not automatic consequences of sport participation. A lot of people believe that, like sport builds character. But instead, these kinds of life skills and core values occur under conditions where there is a positive climate that we call a mastery motivational climate, where emphasis is on each individual's skills and capabilities, and where individuals have positive interactions with caring, compassionate, and competent coaches who are trained to deliver skills and activities that are youth-friendly. So it's not automatic. It has to be done with sort of a deliberate intent. So my students and I, over the past 30 years, have done a lot of research in the areas of youth development, in the areas that I mentioned before. The one that we are currently in the midst of that we're very passionate about is a study with Girls on the Run. Girls on the Run is a physical activity-based youth development program that uses running and other physical activities as a foundation for teaching life skills, core values, and other positive outcomes. There's over 200 councils nationwide, and there's a big council right here in the Twin Cities that's very popular. So Girls on the Run has a curriculum with content that is very specific to girls in grades 3 to 8 that are very important for them now and also in entering adolescence and throughout adulthood. So the content in the curriculum that they teach include topics such as body image, self-esteem, choosing friends, dealing with bullies, standing up for yourself and others, avoiding gossip, and trying to turn negative self-talk and emotions into positive ones. So you can see that these are all qualities actually that anybody can use, but especially that young girls often face now and in the future. Their coaches are specifically trained to deliver the content of this curriculum with fidelity or as intended, and to maximize the acquisition of life skills and positive outcomes. So with our research, one of the gaps in the research on youth development through sport and physical activity is evaluating the effectiveness with which programs are indeed attaining their mission and goals of teaching life skills and core values. So many programs have these curricula and coach training, but haven't evaluated whether in fact the outcomes are attained. And that's exactly what we're doing. We're evaluating the effectiveness of the entire program, the curriculum development, the coach training, the life skills learning, and the other positive outcomes through multiple modes and over time. So this research project is quite huge. We've gone to 3 cities nationwide, 15 schools and 24 teams, 24 councils. And we've done survey and interview data with youth participants, with parents of the kids, with coaches, and also with staff members in the schools that we have researched. So the idea is to try to learn through multiple stakeholders what the children have learned and to what extent they have been able to transfer skills that they learned in Girls on the Run to other situations at school, like responding to taking a test, dealing with peer pressure to engage in unhealthy behaviors, developing healthy habits, and so forth. We've also collected site observations of the coaches to see to what extent they have actually delivered on the curriculum as intended. And we also have a lot of information on the community impact project that the girls do. So that's one of their main things, is giving back to the community. And we've interviewed all of the stakeholders on that. So this project is comprehensive in being sort of longitudinal. So we're looking at preseason, postseason, and then follow up like 3-4 months later before the next season starts, and getting input from various people to see where the information converges, where it's similar, and where the information may be different, to be able to provide information to the organization, as well as to contribute to the literature base on positive youth development. In the 35 years I've done research, this is the hugest project that we've done. It literally and figuratively has taken a village. I have 10 students, current and former students, involved in this project. It included traveling long distance to collect the data, working with the schools, working with the school districts, working with the departments of education in certain cities to get approval to do this study. So we're actually right in the throes of data analysis right now, and writing up an executive report that's due to the organization in the next month and a half, that will inform them of what is going well, what areas need improvement, and to what extent the organization is having an impact on their participants. We've done a similar project with another organization called the First Tee of the World Golf Foundation. So by the name you can tell it's also a physical activity-based youth development program, but uses golf as the foundation for teaching life skills and core values. And it has also an intentional curriculum and a coach training with some different topics and so forth. And they serve both girls and boys, that kind of thing. So that is our biggest project, the Girls on the Run project right now, and it's very compatible with our overall program of looking at physical activity as a context or domain for promoting positive developmental outcomes in children and adolescents. Okay, so in the area of youth development through sport and physical activity, so individuals who get an undergraduate degree can work in after-school programs as coaches, as recreation leaders, as staff members working on developing curriculum, training coaches, implementing the curriculum, organizing events, and things like that. They can also work in nonprofit organizations, which are becoming much more prevalent in terms of providing services to youth. And they can serve in those capacities in nonprofit organizations, in curriculum development, coach training, and implementation. Those with master's degrees will be advantaged, I think, in terms of having more of the background to do that. And then individuals who are interested in doing research and publishing and teaching in higher education would probably need a doctoral degree. In terms of societal impact, well, you're working with real kids doing real activities in the real world. So it's an immediate impact in trying to enrich the lives of young people through physical activity. So physical activity is the vehicle through which to help help emphasize or develop self-confidence, life skills, positive relationships with peers and with coaches, and to develop an intrinsic motivation to be physically active. That is the joy of being physically active, rather than doing it because one's parents are making them do it, that kind of thing. So I have sort of 3 key characteristics or qualities that I feel are important for any person in the helping professions that we're in, but especially in youth development through physical activity. One is you have to have a passion for what you want to do in this area, passion for working with youth and helping them become better people, that kind of thing. A second thing is having a very strong work ethic, because when you're in the area of youth development through sport and physical activity, yeah, you might have certain hours, but you might go extra hours or overtime depending on what kids need and things like that. And the final one that I have here is a relentless curiosity for learning. You need to be a lifelong learner, always learning something new. So curiosity for learning, work ethic, and passion, those to me are the three qualities for being successful in the real world of youth development through physical activity. And those are more what I call intangible qualities, but they're the ones that sort of stand out and sort of distinguish people who have the same grade point average or the same bachelor's degree and things like that. People vary considerably in those three qualities, in my opinion. So I teach the history and philosophy of sport and physical activity course at the undergraduate level. It's writing intensive. It's our only humanities course that we teach in the kinesiology program. And as I tell the students, I'm not a card-carrying historian or philosopher, but I have a great passion for those two topics. And in the history unit, we study sport and physical activity as meaningful for different cultural groups over the course of time. And so we start back in the 1800s and we come all the way to the present time, where sport has often been a vehicle for political activism, for example. Like in 1968 Mexico City Olympics, when Tommy Smith and John Carlos did the Black Power salute to communicate to the world about poverty in America. So we talk about different cultural groups. This year, for example, is the 75th anniversary of Pearl Harbor being bombed, and we talk about how Japanese Americans were rounded up and put in internment camps, which is a big blemish in our country, and how these groups of Japanese Americans use sport, especially baseball, as a way of maintaining community and maintaining cultural heritage and coping with the stress and anxiety and things like that. I think the students really like it, although our major is very dominated by the physical and biological sciences, and so I think it's important to get a different perspective. The philosophy of physical activity unit is one that's really important for most of our students want to go into different healthcare professions like physical therapy, occupational therapy, also coaching and some other things. This has been a real change in the years that I've been a professor. In the early days, it was more like being a teacher and a coach or an athletic trainer, and now it's more going into the healthcare professions. So philosophy is really important, although, again, a lot of the students often don't at first see that. But for example, we talk about developing sound professional ethics. We talk about a holistic approach to interacting with clients and patients. And so you might get 2 or 3 patients with the same disease or illness or injury, but they respond very differently. Or you're working with a child with autism or Down syndrome. There's no 2 kids alike with that. So you can't always go by the textbook. You need to listen to people's unique stories and come up with interventions that are meaningful for them and assess the effectiveness of the intervention not only with physical outcomes but confidence and social relationships and quality of life and things like that. So I really enjoy teaching the class. I think the students vary in their appreciation for it. I think coupled with the fact it's writing intensive, which means that we have essays that are due and expectations there and that kind of thing. So that's the class that I teach at the undergrad level because I have a passion for writing, I have a passion for history, and I have a passion for philosophy. I don't think anyone else wants to teach the course either, so I know I shouldn't have said that, but you know, it's not, like I said, it's not in my area of expertise, but I work very hard at it and really try to bring in current events, you know, to help see how what goes around comes around in terms of history and in philosophy and things like that. So the first T is this sport-based program that is designed to teach life skills and core values to kids through the game of golf. They focus on kids as young as 8 all the way to 17. And they've identified certain things in their curriculum and activities like meeting and greeting skills, showing respect to yourself and others, managing emotions, goal setting, making healthy choices. These topics are all in the curriculum and have specific activities that coaches are trained to deliver. And then the kids can sort of graduate from par level to birdie level to eagle level to ace level as they advance in life skills and golf skills. So the life skills are actually taught concurrently with teaching golf skills. So golf is merely the foundation through which other skills are taught. So for example, if kids are taught how to manage their emotion after hitting a terrible golf shot, the coaches then talk with the kids about where else can you use this emotion management strategy in your life. And the kids quickly talk about dealing with their little brothers and sisters, and instead of hitting them, how they can how they can sort of resolve conflicts better, or if they get a bad grade on a test, how they can kind of spin it into a more constructive way of dealing with that. And those are some of the things they do. So we did a project where we evaluated the effectiveness of the program in promoting positive youth development. And so we had a large group of kids, we had a large group of parents and coaches. The kids were able to recall the life skill concepts very readily. They gave very convincing evidence through our prompting of how they used many of these skills in other areas of their life, like emotion management, conflict resolution, helping others, seeking help from others, and things like that. The coaches that we interviewed were able to express how they delivered the content and activities that were consistent with the philosophy of the program. And this was compatible with things like providing a mastery climate where kids are evaluated based on their own individual capabilities rather than comparing themselves to other people and things like that. The parents gave great examples at home of how the kids used certain skills that they learned in the program with how they had to do things at home or in the neighborhood or in other social contexts. So in terms of our research, we found that parents, coaches, and kids all converged in demonstrating how they learned skills and where they transferred them to other important domains of their life. So Girls on the Run is an after-school program that uses running and other physical activities to help teach life skills and core values to girls spanning grades 3 to 8. So there's one program that's grades 3 to 5, elementary, and then a more advanced one for girls in grades 6 to 8. And the focus of this program is on issues that are particularly relevant to girls, self-esteem, body image, dealing with bullies, standing up for oneself and standing up for others, choosing appropriate friends, resisting peer pressure to engage in risky behaviors and things like that. And this is done through an intentional curriculum where coaches are trained to effectively deliver this curriculum as it's intended. And it's a 10-week program, and so the culminating goal is to run a 5K. So they also, over the 10-week program, are learning to pace themselves, and they run a 5K, and it's a big celebratory event with volunteers and parents and running buddies, and girls get their faces painted and all kinds of fun things. It's a real celebration. It's the biggest 5K run in the nation. They do it nationwide with the different councils and things like that. So in our research, we've engaged in evaluating the degree to which this program is effective in promoting positive youth development in these girls. So we've interviewed girls, parents, and coaches. We've gotten survey responses on various things like competence, confidence, connection to others, character, caring. We've gotten information on the Community Impact Project, which is part of the life skill of contribution to community and society, on what the girls themselves come up with what project they're going to do, and then they implement it. We have site observations, we have 5K data, we have all kinds of things. So, stay tuned for 1 or 2 more months, and we hope to have a comprehensive set of findings on the degree to which this program has been successful in achieving its goals of positive youth development. Well, I've always been physically active ever since I was a child, but I would say sort of the milestone event that really catapulted me into this field was when I was an undergraduate student in California. And at the time I was a math major, okay? And in 1970, not too many girls were math majors, and I was sort of pushed into that because I had that kind of mind. But I needed to make some money, so I decided to try out for this position as a youth sport coach and recreation leader for the city of Newport Beach, California. And it was an extensive interview. I mean, I got asked about my philosophy of coaching youth, and I remember my answer was, I'm just a child myself. I was 17 years old. And anyway, I got the job, and I started coaching kids, from ages 7 to 18 in age group sports. Volleyball and softball were the two things mostly. And what unveiled before my eyes was how sport was sort of this context for developmental psychology. I was minoring in psychology at the time. And everything about child development was coming out, peer relationships, dealing with winning and losing, sportsmanship, all these things were coming out. And I loved coaching these kids. I just loved it. And it was just so motivating. And it just was an epiphany to me as a young person that this domain, this context of sport and physical activity could be a way of helping kids develop physically, socially, and psychologically. So I ended up transferring universities where I double majored in psychology and kinesiology, but it was called physical education at the time, and continued to coach those kids for 5 years. And when I transferred universities, I ended up having a professor who was one of the first sports psychology pioneers and one of the first women. And that further inspired me. So it was kind of a spiral of that, I think that event was transforming in terms of coaching kids, transferring universities, majoring in psychology and kinesiology. Then I coached for a couple of years at the college level, and that was very disappointing. I didn't enjoy that at all. It was too much pressure and was all focused on winning. Even back then, before, right as Title IX was coming in. And so then I went back to school as a doctoral student at Michigan State, and that was when the Institute for the Study of Youth Sports was launched, and so I was on the ground floor of that. So I think it goes all the way. I think that was the one transforming experience, was coaching kids as a youth sport coach and just seeing how powerful sport could be in developing kids' confidence and social relationships and doing the right thing and helping others, but also, dealing with negative things, peer pressure and not winning and things like that. So I've always been passionate about it.